welcome back to my channel. My name is Hilary and I am a psychic medium as well as a spiritual mentor and a podcast host. If you're new to my channel, I do a lot of true crime cases as well as mostly missing people cases, but I also do paranormal cases on my channel here as well. And I give my psychic and mediumship impressions for you. Like, I do meditation and give you the impressions for you guys, and I like to be a voice for the victims of these cases because I think it is very important, because they did not get a voice here on this earth while they are here. So this is part of my purpose here on this earth. So that is why I have this channel and why I do what I do. My goal is not to solve cases. My goal is to give clarification, some closure, and just, like I said, be a voice mostly for the victims. So today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, you guys. I'm going to be discussing the Keddie cabin murders, which I did also discuss on my podcast, but I did notice that some of you guys don't listen to my podcast, which is completely fine. So I wanted to do some of those cases on my YouTube channel just because some of these I find really, really interesting. And like I said, some of you guys don't like to listen to podcasts, so I want to do them on my channel. And today's case is going to be one that I find very interesting. It is an older case, but it's a bizarre case, I'm not gonna lie. And like I said, it is the Keddie cabin murders. So I'm gonna actually read you guys the whole entire situation and the case to you. So today is gonna be a little bit different because it is a longer story. So it's gonna be mostly me explaining what, the whole entire situation to you guys and the whole entire case. Usually I just give you guys a little bit of the backstory, and then I give you guys my impressions, or I do a card reading sometimes for you guys. But today I really wanted to read the whole story to you because it's really, really interesting. And I will give you guys my psychic impressions at the end of the movie, as well as some that my co-host Kayla got in the podcast. She's also a medium and a psychic. And I'll also, if I can remember some of the things that she said, I'll also give you guys some of her impressions as well. She's an amazing psychic medium as well. So if you want, you can look her up. Her name is Kayla. And I got to discuss it with her first, but if she wants any of her information here on my channel, I will post it below in the description box. Okay, guys, so we're going to get right into the case, and I'm going to read to you my whole entire script. So, the Keddie murders is an unsolved 1981 quadruple homicide in Keddie, California, a rural resort town in the Sierra Nevada location. The victims were Glenna Susan, also known as Sue Sharp. She was born on March 29th, 1945, and John Stephen Sharp, born November 16th, 1965, and John's friend Dana Hall Wingate, born February 8th, 1964. The murders took place in house number 28 of the Keddie resort during the late evening of April 11th, 1981. Or early the following morning. They aren't quite too sure about that. So in July of 1979, Glenna Susan, also known as Sue, along with her 5 children, left her home in Connecticut after separating from her abusive husband, James Sharp. She decided to relocate to Northern California, where her brother Don was residing at the time. Upon arriving in California, she began renting a smaller trailer formerly occupied by her brother at the Claremont Trailer Village in Quincy. The following fall, she moved to house number 28 in the rural Sierra Nevada community of Keddie. There she resided with her 15-year-old son, John, her 14-year-old daughter, Sheila, her 12-year-old daughter, Tina, and her 2 younger sons, Rick, age 10, and Greg, age 5. On April 11th, 1981, around 11:30 a.m., Sue, Sheila, and Greg drove from their friend's house, the Meeks family, to pick up Rick, who was attending baseball tryouts. They happened upon John and his friend, Dana Wingate, hitchhiking at the mouth of the canyon from Quincy, California to Keddie, and picked them up, then going to Keddie about 6 miles away. 2 hours later, around 3:30 p.m., John and Dana hitchhiked back to Quincy, where they made plans to visit friends. Around this time, the two were seen in the city's downtown area. That same evening, Sheila had plans to spend the night with the Seabolt family, who lived in an adjacent home, while Sue remained at home with Rick, Greg, and the boys' young friend, Justin Smart. Sheila departed house number 28 shortly after 8 p.m., leaving her mother alone with the younger children. Tina, who had been watching television at the Seabolts, returned back home to number 28 around 9:30 p.m. after Sheila arrived at the Seabolts to spend the night. Around 7 a.m. on the morning of April 12th, Sheila returned to number 28 and discovered the dead bodies of Sue, John, and Dana in the house's living room. All 3 had been bound with medical tape and electrical cords. And I do want to tell you guys a little bit disclaimer here. So my videos are for entertainment purposes only. I have to say that. And this might be a little bit of a TMI. There is a lot of details in this case that are, they're not very nice or not very pleasing. But if you are interested in seeing any pictures, you can Google pictures, and there's tons of pictures in regards to this case online, okay? So Tina was absent from the home while the 3 younger children, Rick, Greg, and Justin, were unharmed in the adjacent bedroom. Initial reports stated that the 3 young boys had slept through the incident, but this was later contradicted. Upon discovering the scene, Sheila rushed back to the Seabolt's house, whereupon Jamie Seabolt retrieved Rick, Greg, and Justin through the bedroom window. He later admitted to having briefly entered the home through the back door to see if anyone was still alive, potentially contaminating evidence in the process. Yeah, I'm just going to say that from my impressions, there was a lot of contaminated evidence in this case. And it wasn't just from Mr. Seabolt, it was also from other people trampling in and out of the scene, which they shouldn't have been. And to be quite honest with you, what I get from my impressions that this case the scene was not properly investigated. It wasn't properly taken care of. And there should have been a lot more care in regards to it, especially being 1981. I feel like they were still knowledgeable on these type of things, but they were very careless. I'm just going to say that now. Not all of them, but the police and the FBI were very careless in this case, okay? So the murders of Sue, John, and Dana were notably vicious. 2 bloody knives and 1 hammer were found at the scene, and one of the knives, a steak knife later determined to have been used in the murders, had been bent at roughly 30 degrees. Blood splatter evidence from inside the house indicated the murders of Sue, John, and Dana had all taken place in the living room. Sue was discovered lying on her side near the living room sofa, nude from the waist down and gagged with a blue bandana and her own panties, which had been secured with tape. She had been stabbed in the chest, her throat was stabbed horizontally, the wound going through her larynx and nicking her spine. And on the side of her head was an imprint matching the butt of a Daisy 680 Powerline BB pellet rifle. John's throat was slashed. Dana had multiple head injuries and had been manually strangled to death. John and Dana suffered blunt force trauma to their heads caused by a hammer or hammers. Autopsies determined that Sue and John died from the knife wounds and blunt force trauma, and Dana died by asphyxiation. The investigation. So Sheila and the Seabolt family, with whom Sheila had spent the night in the neighboring home, heard no commotion during the night. A couple living in nearby house number 16 was awakened at 1:15 a.m. by what sounded like muffled screaming. Tina's jacket, shoes, and a toolbox containing various tools were missing from the house, which showed no indication of forced entry. The house's telephone had been taken off the hook and the cord cut from the outlet, and the drapes were closed. Yeah, I definitely see that in my visions. Martin Smart, a neighbor and the main suspect, claimed that a claw hammer had inexplicably gone missing from the home. Plumas County Sheriff Sylvester Thomas, who presided over the case, later stated that Martin had provided endless clues in the case that seemed to throw the suspicion away from him. Shocking. In addition to interviewing the Smarts, detectives interviewed numerous other locals and neighbors, several including members of the Seabolt family, recalled seeing a green van parked at the Sharps' house around 9 p.m. Justin gave conflicting stories of the evening, including that he had dreamed details of the murders, though he later claimed to have actually witnessed them. In his later account of events, told under hypnosis, he claimed to have awoken to sounds coming from the living room while asleep in the bedroom with Rick and Greg. Investigating those sounds, he saw Sue with 2 men, one with a mustache and short hair, and another one clean-shaven with long hair, both wearing glasses. According to Justin, John and Dana had entered the home and began heatedly arguing with the men. A fight ensued, after which Tina entered the room and was taken out of the cabin's back door by one of the men. Based on Justin's descriptions, composite sketches of the 2 unknown men were produced by Harry and Embry, a man with no artistic ability and no training in forensic sketching. It was never explained why, with access to the DOJ's and FBI's top forensic artists. Law enforcement chose to use an amateur who sometimes volunteered to help Reno. Yeah, like I said, there was a lot of careless stuff that happened in regards to this investigation. And it just, you just keep seeing that the more I read into the case, right? So where is Tina, the little girl? Okay, she was taken out the back door, and Tina's disappearance was initially investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, as a possible abduction, though it was reported on April 29, 1981 that the FBI had backed off the search as the Department of Justice was doing an adequate job and made the FBI's presence unnecessary. Stupid. A grid pattern search of the area covering a 5-mile radius around the house was conducted with police canines, but the efforts were fruitless. Probably because the efforts weren't really that much to begin with. Anyways, on April 22nd, 1984, 3 years and 11 days after the murders and Tina's disappearance, yes, you heard that right, 3 years and 11 days, a bottle collector discovered a cranium portion of a human-like skull and part of a mandible at Camp 18 near Feather Falls in neighboring, I don't know if it's Butte or Butte County, a distance of roughly 100 miles from Keddie. Shortly after announcing the discovery, the Butte County's Sheriff's Office received an anonymous call that identified the remains as belonging to Tina. But the call was not documented in the case. See? A recording of this call was found at the bottom of an evidence box at some point after 2013 by a deputy who was assigned the case. The remains were confirmed by a forensic pathologist to be those of Tina Sharp in June 1984. Near the remains, detectives also discovered a blue nylon jacket, a blanket, a pair of Levi jeans with a missing back pocket, and an empty surgical tape dispenser. So we're going to talk now about the subsequent developments in the case. In 1996, Robert Joseph Silveria was examined as a potential suspect in the murders. The house in which the murders occurred was demolished in 2004. In a 2008 documentary of the murders, Marilyn Smart claimed that she suspected her husband Martin and his friend John Bowe, or also known as Boobidi, not like I really care about pronouncing his name right, are responsible for the murders of Sue, John, Dana, and Tina. Marilyn claimed that on the evening of the crime, she had left Martin and Bowe at a local bar around 11 p.m. and returned home to go to sleep. Around 2 a.m. on April 12th, she stated she awoke to find the two burning an unknown item in the wood stove. Additionally, she allegedly said that Martin hated Johnny Sharp with a passion. However, in the 2008 documentary, Sheriff Doug Thomas said he had personally interviewed Martin and that Martin had passed a polygraph examination. I just want to say, you guys, that I do not trust polygraphs. They're majority of the time not right, okay, because of what they're based on. And this is my opinion. This is what I'm saying, and from what I've come to understand doing cases and being a psychic medium and getting the impressions that I get, that polygraphs are not the most accurate. So in my opinion, they can't be trusted. But Martin Smart died of cancer in Portland, Oregon in June 2000. And John Bobo head, sorry, who allegedly had ties to the organized crime in Chicago, died in 1988. On March 24, 2016, a hammer matching the description of the hammer Martin claimed to have lost was discovered in a local pond and taken into evidence by Plumas County Special Investigator Mike Gamberg and Sheriff Hagwood, who was 16 years old at the time of the murders and knew the Sharp family personally. And he stated, quote, "The location it was found, it would have been intentionally put there. It would not have been accidentally misplaced." Gamberg also stated that end quote, sorry. And Gamberg also stated at the time that 6 potential suspects were being examined. So, in a 2016 article published by the Sacramento Bee paper detailing the discovery of the hammer. Martin had left Keddie and driven to Reno, Nevada shortly after the murders, and from there he sent a letter to Marilyn ruminating on personal struggles in their marriage, which he concluded with, quote, "I've paid the price of your love and now I've bought it with 4 people's lives," end quote. In a 2016 interview, Gamberg stated that the letter was overlooked in the initial investigation and never omitted as evidence. Holy shit. See? He later criticized the quality of the initial investigation, saying, quote, "You could take someone just coming out of the academy and they'd have done a better job," end quote. A counselor whom Martin regularly visited would also allegedly say that he admitted to the murders of Sue and Tina, but he then claimed, quote, "I didn't have anything to do with the boys." He allegedly told the counselor that Tina was killed to prevent her from identifying him, which is what I also got from my impressions, as she had, quote, "witnessed the whole thing," end quote. In April 2018, Gamberg stated that DNA evidence recovered from a piece of tape at the crime scene matched that of a known living suspect. So I want to get into the paranormal stuff in this case because it's super interesting, because there is a medium as well as Sheila, the daughter, who brought the medium to the location of the Keddie cabin, and they did an investigation. And there was also another psychic, if I can recall. So I'm just going to read that to you guys because it's super interesting as well. So on October 24th, 2009, 2 psychics visited cabin 28 with Sheila Sharp, Sue's daughter, and family friend Richard Meeks, who also lived at the Keddie resort. One of the psychics was a medium who could speak with the dead, while the other one used an EVP. If you don't know what an EVP is, it's a machine that can pick up on spirit. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen them in other videos. So working together, the result was both fascinating and spooky. First, they approached the site of cabin 28, which at this point had been torn down. Trampling through the dead leaves, they stepped inside the perimeter of where the cabin once sat. Immediately, the medium heard screaming. The lights on the EVP went wild and cherry dots flashing on and off. The medium was visibly chilled to the bone as she recited the following. She said, "Sue opened the door. Oh my God, I know them." 2 men entered the cabin with the 3rd standing behind them. "No, please don't." Screaming, pain, pleading, begging. "There were 2 and a 3rd. You're on the right track in the investigation. But what about D? Find D." So if you're a bit confused about this is the medium saying all this while she was there on the spot, okay? Because what's happening is, like I often do, is I often go into the energy of one of the victims, and she was immediately brought into the energy of Sue. So she was having visions of what Sue had seen that night, and then she was also hearing what was happening, and so that's what she is saying here. And she's going through these things in the visions, but also Sue Sharp is channeling through her as well. And that's why it's confusing. So Sue says to her, "There were 2 and a 3rd. You're on the right track in the investigation, but what about D? Find D." "No, not my babies. Please kill me. Just let them go." Unbearable pain and chaos. So the medium tries to calm Sue, and Sue refuses to leave the site until all had been punished. Tortured and murdered, preferably. And then she said, "Why isn't anyone punishing them?" So Sheila Sharp approaches the medium. If you recall, Sheila discovered the bodies and is also the daughter of Sue. And then Sue starts to scream. And so this comes out of the medium's mouth. And she says, "No, baby, please leave and don't come back." And this is also caught on the EVP recording. So the medium again tries to calm Sue enough to speak with her daughter, who is shaking and crying. And she has praying hands in front of her mouth because she's in disbelief. Sue finally agrees, but she will only say this: "Baby, I love you very much. Please promise me you won't come here anymore. The kids are safe with me. They're fine. Tina is with me too. I will protect them. No one better speak their names, and no one can speak to them. You need to leave. If you want to talk to me, you don't need to come here. Please go. Just go." So the medium asks Sheila if she knows whose cabin that is that Sue keeps pointing at. And Sue is showing the medium and pointing to the cabin that is the one that where Martin lived in, okay? So they hurry Sheila away, and because of Sue screams, "No, don't ask her." So you guys can see that Sue is still stuck in this energy of what happened that night. Her energy is still on the scene of what had happened in 1981. And I strongly feel like, from my own impressions, that sometimes spirit will stay earthbound, like I've told you guys before. And I feel like she has done that because of the manner in which that she passed away. It was so sudden, it was so traumatic that it kept her in this energy of trauma, which kept her soul earthbound. So I do feel like she has accepted what has happened, and she's ascended in a way. But when they did this in 2009, you could tell she's still very traumatized, and what's happening is the energy of her soul is replaying this event over and over again. And when Sheila went back to her daughter, now full grown, I think she was like in her 40s at the time, when they went back there, it like triggered Sue's energy. Okay, so she's still in this conflict. She's still thinking, or her soul is still in the moment of when this happened, which is super traumatizing to understand that sometimes when we pass over, we're still stuck in the trauma that we were living in that moment. So eventually her spirit guides and the angels would have come in and helped her understand that she was gone and she was dead. But I feel like in Sue's energy, she's a very stubborn woman, and she's not okay with any of this still. I wouldn't be either. So they hurry Sheila away because her mom is telling her, "Get her away from here." So because of Sue's obvious guilt over opening the door that night and her anger about the situation, which I just said, the two psychics leave her alone and head towards the cabin Sue's enraged about. They enter the cabin, which is still standing, and the EVP starts to go crazy again. And here's where we discover the truth from that fateful night. So Beau's spirit in the cabin, they sense Beau's spirit in the cabin, and they sense that he's still stuck there, and that guilt won't allow him to move on. Okay, so, I've talked to you guys about karma and how it still plays over when we are passed over, no matter that we're dead. We don't just right away ascend and go to higher dimensions or go to heaven, as some of you call it. We have to pay the price of what we did in our lifetime, whether we reincarnate or whether we do it in a lifetime or we do it on the other side. Okay, so the guilt won't allow him to move on. And I honestly still feel in his energy like he's still stuck there. But the cabin belonged to Martin Smart. The medium asks the following: "Are you guilty?" "Yes." "Do you know what happened?" "Yes." "Do you want to say something about that night?" "Yes. Wasn't my idea. Anger around Sue." And the medium says, "You know Sue?" He says, "Yes." And then she says, "Are you stuck here because of what happened?" He says, "Yes, it's not my fault. Tell Sue I'm sorry. It's Martin's fault and Dee's. He's still alive and knows what happened." So if you guys are wondering who Dee is, another third energy that I picked up in my reading as well, that was also there the night that this all happened. But he's literally just standing there. I feel, and I'm seeing that he was at the bar with Beau and Martin. They were all drinking. It was Martin's idea to go, and I'll tell you guys my impressions after, but there is another energy there, but he doesn't actually do anything. He doesn't commit any of the murders. He pretty much he stands there in shock, okay? So the EVP continues to go wild, and Beau says, "It got out of hand. Didn't mean where it went. Violence and sex, that's all we wanted. Wasn't supposed to go that way." The medium says, "Were the boys there or did they come home?" And he says, "Already there." "Did Sue open the door?" "Yes. Martin pushed past her. Martin said she was easy. But then I got out of control and Martin was enraged like he was possessed. He took it out on Sue. Sue didn't matter. Pure animalistic savagery." The medium says, were drugs involved? And he says, "No drinking." were all three of you involved in the murders? And Bo says 2, and I stayed back. I'm getting that's a huge, massive lie. Okay, so we're just going to get into my impressions now and what I picked up from the case. I also say my impressions in the episode on the podcast. So right away, I picked up that the main suspect was Martin and Bo. And I do see D there, this man that Sue talked about. But I feel like he's standing back sort of by the front door in like, he looks like he's in shock. He's in like disbelief that all this is happening. And I'm then seeing a vision of them all in the bar, and it flashes to Sue sitting on the couch in the cabin watching TV. So my guides actually tell me that D was not aware of what was actually going to happen at the house, because Martin and Bo were just telling him that they're going to, what I'm hearing strongly is get her back, as in like, there's a lot of revenge here. There's a lot of revenge in Martin's energy, and Bo just sort of went along with what Martin would say. He was kind of like his follower, and we do know that Bo also has a criminal record. He just came out of prison, and I'm strongly picking up that, yeah, there was he was just like a sheep pretty much. And he also didn't know that this was going to turn into a murder. He did know, though, that Martin was going to go there to try and sexually harass Sue. And he was just going to help him do that. It's disgusting. But the other man there, which is what I'm getting, and according to Sue, this man's name is D. I'm not getting a last name or anything, but we're just going to call him D. So my first vision, like I said, is of them in the bar. Then it flashes to Sue sitting on the couch watching TV. I then see 3 of them enter like the cabin where Sue lived, just like pretty much just open the door and walk in the cabin. And then I see Sue get up, like shocked, like what the hell are you guys doing here? It's definitely dark outside. And then Sue tells them to get out. She's like, get out, leave, what are you doing here, get out. So I'm told then by my guides that Martin actually hated Sue because he had made passes at her previously, and she had turned him down every single time. And remember, he's married, okay? And she's also, from what I'm picking up, she's also friends with his wife. I believe her name is it Marilyn? And he's pissed off because she's turned him down many, many times. Not only that, she told his wife that he made passes at her. So, he's really angry, and he's almost got this sort of energy about him, like, I'm going to get my way, I'm going to get what I want. And I'm strongly hearing the words, F that, bitch, a lot. Like, that's what he's running through his mind. And it's almost like, she's not going to do that to me. I'm going to get her back. Okay, there's a lot of revenge, anger in his energy. So I then see John and Dana enter the living room. And from what I'm getting, they were downstairs or outside, where Martin is trying to hurt Sue. I'm not going to go into too much detail. You guys can get the gist of what he's trying to do to her. So obviously I see her son jump on Martin's back, and then Dana, his friend, and Dana's a male to everyone. Dana, his friend, jumps on Bo's back, and then there's just this big, huge fight that breaks out. And unfortunately, John and Dana are teenager boys, right? So they're not as big and strong as the older men. And we know what happens next, and it's really, really sad. So automatically, I wrote automatically a fight breaks out, and then I see Tina, the little girl, she's standing like in the doorway of like the kitchen that goes into the living room from what I see, and she's just in shock. And I do believe that she did witness part of this. She woke up and she got out of bed, okay? So I then see, I then see D, the other man that's just standing back by the door. I see him actually take Tina out of the house. And then the next vision that I see is I see Martin with Tina in like a forest, wooded area. And he sexually assaults her and he murders her because she's seen what happened. So my guides tell me that D did not have anything to do with the murders themselves. He didn't even know that was what was going to happen that night. They were all obviously intoxicated. They were all drunk. And I'm like, well, why does this guy is a witness. Why did he not come out and tell anybody? And the answer that I got from that was because he has a family and children of his own. And he fought with himself throughout his whole entire life. I'm strongly getting that in regards to saying what he's seen because he was a witness. But he had his children and his wife and his whole life to, he would probably go to prison, and he wasn't going to risk that. And I know that sounds really, really bad because, you'd think that you would tell, right? Most people say, well, I would tell. There's no way I would tell right away. And maybe a lot of us would. But if you have a family that is, and if I strongly picked up this man was a good father, that he has children and a wife. And I'm getting that he didn't want to do that to them because they're going to be the ones that suffer if they no longer have a father. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that it's right. But I'm saying that he did fight with himself throughout his whole entire life about whether or not he was going to come out and say what he's seen. Now, I do feel like, and I am getting from my guides, that it's going to be like a deathbed thing. And also Kayla got this too. She picked up that he was going to come out and say it when he's on his deathbed. So what also Kayla and I picked up was that this whole entire thing was not investigated properly. And I was getting that there is a lot of connections. Not a lot. There is a very strong connection, one in particular that I'm getting with Martin and someone who's very high up in the police force there. And I am strongly going to say that this is why I think this case was closed very fast and that there was a bunch of contamination of the evidence. And I feel like I strongly feel like this man, I'm not getting a name, but I'm getting an older man. I feel like he was protecting Martin. And I feel like the man D, that was the witness, he knew that. He knew they had connections with the police. And I do feel like this was what was also holding him back from saying anything. I do feel like he was threatened quite a bit not to say anything. But I don't know if some of you guys might have some of your own impressions that you would like to say or like to tell me. I'm open to all that. If you'd like to say them in the description box, you guys know that I love to hear what you think and your opinion. Now, like I said, and I'm going to say this a million times, these are not my opinion. Like, there's a few things in here that are my opinions, but it's mostly my impressions that I am getting from spirit. But that's pretty much it that I got in this case, you guys. If you want to see more of my videos, you could click the notification bell. It'll tell you when I upload new videos, and hit the subscribe button. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I will see you guys in my next video.